spot. The third overall selection in the 2019 NHL Draft belongs to the Chicago Blackhawks.
Chicago will select third. They move all the way up from the 12th spot. 3 Stanley Cups this decade. Kane, Taves, Keith, and now a number 3 pick in June in Vancouver for the Hawks. And then there were 2, and the next card revealed by Deputy Commissioner Bill Daly is the winner of the 2019 NHL Draft Lottery.
The first overall selection in the 2019 NHL Draft belongs to the New Jersey Devils.
The New Jersey Devils are still on the clock, and we are only just a little less than 48 hours away from actual draft arriving here Friday and Saturday at Rogers Arena in Vancouver. Welcome to Agree or Disagree, the podcast, Hockey Edition. My name is Kevin Olenek. You can, of course, follow me on Twitter at KEVOLE. You can subscribe on all of your favorite podcast places, Apple, Spotify, Google, etc. To find all podcasts, go on to KevinOlenek.com as well. Joined as always, hello Tyler, how are you?
Hey, I am very well, Kevin. Sorry, just fumbling with the mute button there. Off to a bad start. It's a summery week on and off. Terrace, it's been good.
Yes.
It's nice to chat with you guys on a Wednesday.
Nice to be on a Wednesday. And Sean is with us as well. Hello, Sean.
Hello, I'm doing well.
Good. Glad. Yes, this is the next step in many kids and families' dream. And I say the next step because as they are drafted to the NHL, obviously not everyone makes it. There is some interesting stats from TSN about the amount of players that make it. And it's estimated around 80% of first-round players will play, most of them will play some sort of NHL hockey. Of course, others will not make it. If you look at examples, like we have the Oilers drafting, of course, Connor McDavid, who's nominated for a couple of awards as we are recording this. But they also drafted Nail Yakupov, who signed today in Russia. Of course, today you got a guy like Elias Pettersson that won the Calder Trophy. But also, the Vancouver Canucks drafted a guy named Jake Virtanen, who has not made it. So there is no exact science to what we're about to do today with the mock draft. There's been Hall of Famers like Luc Robitaille, Doug Gilmour, Pavel Datsyuk, future Hall of Famer, that were drafted in the 6th and 7th round that did end up making it. So there's no exact science into getting into this draft, but it is fascinating to see what will happen. And we will be doing our very own NHL mock draft. We'll go through the rules here, what we're going to do here in a second, but we do have news to cover today as well. One of them being Alex Edler has apparently signed some sort of contract with the Vancouver Canucks. We do know that the new no movement clause has been modified, and the big sticking point was the not being protected in the expansion draft. So that has been fixed. But this appears to be, the question is how long? And it's, Elliot Friedman tweeted a little bit earlier today that this may be a 4-year contract. So this reminded me sort of back when LeBron signed with the Miami Heat. It sounded like this.
But we also know you 3 kings came down here to win championships. Not 1, championships.
Not 2.
LeBron, tell us about that.
Not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7.
It could be, that could be the how long that Alex Edler contract actually is. We don't actually know. It may not be 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7. He could be playing till 40 years old. But how are you feeling about this? Are you happy Alex Edler is back on contract, is signed here, or are you still waiting to get the details here? What are your thoughts?
I'm happy that they're gonna get him signed. the Canucks aren't in a position that they can move on from him and feel comfortable going into the next season, let alone the next couple seasons, without him. On the left side, if you take Edler out, all you have is Quinn Hughes, Ashton Sontner, Guillaume Brisebois, and Olli Juolevi, who are signed to contracts. That's not good enough. And even if Olli Juolevi comes in and starts and surprises everyone and plays his way into the top six, it's just not good enough. So bringing him back for a 3 to 4 year contract is very good. The fourth year is a little concerning, but I think it's better than the option of not having him part of the organization going forwards, and the fact that they've got him to move off the full no-move clause and be able to expose him in the Seattle expansion draft in a couple years is very good, because even if Seattle doesn't take him, and I don't think they will, it just allows them to protect someone who's going to be a part of the Canucks' future for a longer period of time.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you, Sean. I would just add that, if you didn't re-sign Alex Edler, the likely result would have been the Canucks going after defenseman in free agency and probably having to overpay to get whatever player replacement for Edler would be. So you have a guy that wants to be there, is willing to be there affordably. The number of years, of course, still waiting for the official announcement, but reportedly it's a 3 to 4 year deal, an average annual value of around $5 to $5.5 million. For them to get it at least to that point is a win for the Canucks, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm still concerned about that fourth year. It seems a little weird to me, but my theory I tossed out to Sean, and Sean said there's no chance of this. My theory is if he's left unprotected, I think there's a chance he could end up retiring. But I also don't think, I kind of agree with Sean, I don't see a particular reason off the top of my head that Seattle would be taking a 35-year-old defenseman. But so I think overall it's good to have him back. I still think you still need to do a lot of work on that defense. And one of the conversations going forward is what you will pay to bring in a Jake Gardiner, which appears to be the number one defense target right now for free agency in the NHL, unless you're making a trade this weekend, which we don't know. But in terms of that, does that allow you some flexibility though to not necessarily have to really, 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 really desperately overpay for Jake Gardiner, but be a little bit more strategic about making that decision?
It does, but I still think that Gardner is to go that way. He's been getting a little bit of grief and flack over the past couple of years because of a couple games that he's had in the playoffs. But he's a fantastic puck-moving defenseman who has shown that he can play tough defensive minutes as well. So adding him to the fold would be a huge upgrade, and having Edler, Hughes, and Gardner as your three left shot defensemen, I think is just I think that's an embarrassment of riches if the Canucks go that way.
Yeah, strategically, you'd have to think getting a good deal and bringing back a known quantity in Alex Edler would make things a little bit easier as far as how they're going to fill out the rest of the defense, whether it's with Gardner or internal options or whatever.
Yeah. Now, because this week it's pretty much, I feel like Twitter has been following Jim Benning's life the last week of exactly who he's made phone calls to. Names like Zach Bogosian, Ritso Ristolainen, bunch of other names have been out there. Is there any of these trade options that you are seeing as Oh, this is a pretty interesting idea.
Shane Gostisbehere here is an interesting one. He's on the younger side. He's locked up long term at a very good price. My only issue with that is he hasn't proven that he can play tough minutes. He's had a lot of offensive zone minutes and doesn't penalty kill. And when you have Quinn Hughes on your team, who's not necessarily going to penalty kill at least for the next year or two, you're not going to want to bring in someone else who's going to be very similar in that aspect. Rasmus Ristolainen, I know, is a divisive player because he has consistently put up 40-point seasons, but he gets buried in possession through all his career. But I think part of that is he's been used in very defensive roles and has been played way too much. Like, he plays 25 plus minutes in Buffalo, and if he comes in and plays with the Canucks, I think that gets knocked down to 22, 23, and he won't get as much tough defensive minutes. And I think you'll see, if that's the case, that his possession numbers will become a little more palatable.
Gostisbehere certainly a name that's interesting for me to hear. Tyler Myers as well. But I think in his case, it comes down to, what kind of opportunity is he going to get, and is that going to be a fit for him? Bigger name, I would think. So probably more expensive and thus less likely. But as a general comment on all these rumors, I mean, you would hope that the general manager is kicking the tires on anyone and everyone and seeing what the possibilities are. It gets a little exhausting, I have to say, just sort of trying to keep up on Twitter with the amount of speculation that's out there. But it is the time of year leading up to the draft, so that's fun, but hard to keep up with too.
Yeah, it is. I feel like Vancouver and Toronto have been more like the vocal ones, partially market, but partially what they have going on. I mean, we have the Zeiss that we've talked about that. They have Marner. We'll get into that. We'll get into that in a little bit. But I really feel like there's the pressure or the expectation or the hope or however you want to word it, that there's going to be some sort of splash on Friday, that Vancouver's going to make this big move. I think has people just excited and hope for something, but I think with some cautious optimism, I would imagine as well. The other name that has popped out, the news that came out today, was Jesse Puljujarvi has officially asked to be traded from the Edmonton Oilers. He was, of course, part of the Olli Juolevi, Matthew Tkachuk draft. He was picked 4th. Juolevi was picked 5th. Matthew Tkachuk was picked 6th. This was a guy that has been bounced up and down, partially with Edmonton, partially down. And he has said that he does not want to play at Edmonton anymore. It has led to some questions of what the Oilers would expect, which was a third line center. Comets Corey tweeted out Brandon Sutter's a third line center. And so this is my perspective on Jesse Puljujarvi. Or as Heidi called him, pool party. And she asked me if I would be interested if the Flames would pick up a guy like this. This is my perspective. I am very cautious about having him. I'm not disputing his talent. I'm not disputing his abilities. I think that they are there. I think was put in a very awkward situation. I think he was put in a situation where I think expectations were expected to be higher on him than he was actually prepared to be. I don't necessarily think that him asking for a trade out of Edmonton is the solution. I think actually probably one of the almost perfect GMs is in his corner now, and a guy like Ken Holland, who has a history in Detroit of developing stars into good players. I think he would be better off at Edmonton, but I just also think, the talent is so tempting, but there's so much baggage in there, and especially from a Vancouver perspective, if you already have a Jake Virtanen, and if you already have had issues with a Jonathan Dahlin and a couple of other Nikolai Goldobin, how is Jesse Puljujarvi going to survive in this organization?
Yeah, just on your point about Ken Holland and his history in Detroit with developing players, the key there was to never rush them into the Red Wings lineup.
Yeah.
And that's what the Oilers keep doing. And I think at this point it's damaged goods. And from Puljujarvi's perspective, you might as well get that fresh start sooner rather than later. The agent, he said it's nothing against the Oilers. I mean, sorry, that's just lip service. It is something against the Oilers. I mean, it's a continuation of what we've seen with other players. I mean, we saw that with, I'm drawing a blank on the Russian player's name.
Yakupov.
Yakupov, yeah, thank you. And, same thing. I mean, and now he's not even in the NHL, and he stuck around with the Oilers trying to get it worked out for a while there too. And didn't happen. Now, they're different players, and ultimately some of it has to be on the player to be committed and work hard and deliver the goods. But, I mean, there's a pattern there with how the Oilers have handled their young players. And, you'd hope that now with a new regime in place that will change. But, Puljujarvi's not interested in waiting around any longer, I guess.
Yeah, with the potential Canucks acquisition, I'd be on board because the Canucks need to find a way to acquire skill and talent that have high ceiling, and I still think Puljujarvi has that. And you just have to just hope that he can turn it around just find his game and realize his ceiling. And the Canucks just need, with the lack of assets the Canucks have, these are the type of creative deals that you have to sort of look at and get when you can. So it's an option out there at this point. But I don't see them trading within the division, unfortunately, because of the ceiling that he does have.
Yeah. Do we want to quickly get into Kevin Hayes and Jacob Trouba? Do we want to quickly talk about that, or do we want to jump onto that?
I'd say Kevin Hayes. It's quite the combination of term and cap hit for someone who has had one 20-goal season. It's a bit much for me.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely an eye-popping deal. I think most reaction out there, most people I think are reacting in that fashion. In regards to Trouba, I mean, the Jets were they're pretty forced to make this deal, right? So it's we'll see what that 20th overall pick, if they hold on to it, how what that'll be for the Jets and how that turns out, to really make sense of that trade. But it's always an unfortunate situation when you're forced to make a trade you don't want to.
Yeah, you're never in a good situation. But the Rangers are going to be a very interesting team next year for sure. I'm very intrigued by them. Which leads to, before we get into the mock draft, I'll go through the rules here a little bit, how we're going to do the mock draft. But I do have a question before. So we're all going to pick one each. So I'm going to pick first. I'm going to pick New Jersey's pick. Sean's going to pick the Rangers, and then Tyler's going to pick the third pick, Chicago, and then we'll go every three. And I have no idea who Sean and Tyler is going to pick. They have no idea who I'm going to pick. So this will be quite fascinating. But there's no guarantee here. So don't rely on us. We're relying on the same research everyone else is. And then we're just doing the first round. We're not going to get into the other rounds, and we're not predicting which team is going to make a trade with another team. We're just basing it on all the research out there, like who might be a good fit where. So I have the Vancouver pick, so if you don't like it, you can WTF me, and that's fine. But,
Well, I've got the Calgary pick, so.
And then you guys, the Calgary fans, get WTF on. Well, that's actually quite fascinating. There we go. Yeah. So, but what are you intrigued by this draft? What's intriguing you, other than the obvious, who are the Canucks going to pick? What else is intriguing you here?
Well, I think that there's no clear number one, I think, is what's intriguing to me.
Well, then that and basically from 3, 4, all the way down to 10 to 12, you have no idea what's going on. You kind of have an idea with the third and fourth selections, but definitely from 5 to 12, it's wide open. So you could see teams in the 8, 9, 10, 11 range that get the players that they have on in third or fourth on their board. So yeah, it's just the unpredictability from after the first two is going to be quite interesting to watch.
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah, that's going to be really fascinating. What's falling under the radar in your mind?
Ooh, where Spencer Knight goes?
Yeah, that's such an interesting question. That's because there's so pros and cons wherever he ends up. I think it's quite interesting to me. That and I kind of also Mitch, in a weird way, I can't believe I'm saying this considering this team, because they usually don't fall under any radar, evidenced by Monday's parade, but I feel like sort of Toronto is kind of in a little ways falling, under the radar, because we do have this possibility. I'm not saying it's guaranteed to happen, but the Mitch Marner situation, I think might play a little bit into what might happen. Because if they can't sign this guy, they have to look at other options here. So, and I think it's going to be. I just think that's. I'm not guaranteeing that Mitch Marner. I'm not predicting Mitch Marner is going to be traded. That's not what I'm saying. But I do think Toronto has to try to get themselves back into the first round for sure. And I think, and they've got some interesting pieces, and they've got some really interesting decisions. And a guy that I think I would 30 any team would want. Absolutely. This is a bona fide, pure talent National Hockey League player that, obviously Toronto would want to keep, but the question around that salary and what he wants to be paid, and if they think that he is not the same value as Austin Matthews, I don't know. I'm intrigued by what might happen there.
I think that goes on later on into the summer, because I think Kyle Dubas has shown in the past that he's willing to be patient, and I don't think he's going to rush this.
No, and if I remember correctly, in last year's draft, I think he made a deal to move down and pick up the pick, I think. Somewhere there in the later part of the first round. So, we could see some creative swapping of picks there with the Leafs. But, I think they want to get back in the first round, but it's not, at all costs get back in the first round.
No. But, yeah. Maybe I'm reading too much into what's happening with Mitch Marner. I find there's something interesting about it that I don't know. I'm not sold on the wonder professor or Kyle Dubas that everyone else is.
Well, I'm not either.
Yeah, I think he's put himself in a really. I do think he's in a very difficult situation. Maybe he doesn't.
Oh, he is, but he put himself. Him and Toronto put themselves in that by going after John Tavares. So,
yep. I said they overpaid for him, but they were like, no, this is great. Get him his pajamas, whatever. So
yeah. Not overpaid in the sense that there maybe were better deals out there for him, but overpaid in terms of how it fits their structure and the other players and all that for sure.
Yeah, could have been sure. All right, let's do this draft here. So I have the first pick here, so I am representing the New Jersey Devils first, and I know that there has been some debate in some people's mind about who this is, but to me, if I'm the New Jersey Devils, I am sticking with what has been number one all along. It's Jack Hughes. He's been pillar to post. He's a center. I know the temptation of Capo Caco is there, and it's wonderful. There's wonderful temptation, but there's too much talent in this guy that you just should not be passing on Jack Hughes. So I am, for the New Jersey Devils, my mock draft is for number one is Jack Hughes.
And the New York Rangers are now going to be sprinting up to the podium to take Capo Caco because why wouldn't you? He's got the size, he's got the speed, and he can score. Yeah, he's adding that to the glutton of prospects they have, and with the addition of Jacob Trouba, they're going to be a fun team to watch in the next couple of years.
So this leaves me now with a bit of a choice at number 3. It's Chicago's pick. Is it Bowen Byram or Alex Turcotte? I think that the Blackhawks would be inclined to go with the American center and Alex Turcotte. It's just a hunch. I do think that on these rankings, maybe Byram got a bit of a boost towards the end, just with the Vancouver Giants' deep run in the Western Hockey League playoffs. But Alex Turcotte, American center, I think for excitement factor, that would be something the Blackhawks would be inclined to do. So I'll go with Turcotte.
Which leads me with the Colorado Avalanche, and I know that I have a bunch of defensemen if I'm Colorado, but I'm going to go with Bowen Byram here. I'm intrigued by the idea of a Makar-Byram pair for years to come. I think that's going to be fascinating. Maybe there's a bit of a boost here, but I think he's just going to fit so well in that Colorado system that I can't let him go past me into a Western Conference rival of LA. And so I will take Bowen Byram with Colorado.
And this is now the Los Angeles Kings pick, and this is where the draft really begins with that everyone keeps saying, because Turcotte and Byram have had that little mini tier to themselves, and I think the Kings go with Dylan Cousins. I think they like his size, speed, and they've done well with a big, strong center in Anze Kopitar, and I think that's who they may use as a template for Dylan Cousins.
Okay, sorry, Sean, you picked Cousins?
Yep.
Okay. So with Detroit's pick now, I think if I'm Detroit, I'm going to go with Kirby Dach, 6'4" forward, some flexibility there out of the Western Hockey League as well. I think that's a good fit for the Red Wings.
Which puts me at 7 with the Buffalo Sabres. And boy, this is fascinating to me. I'm going to go with Trevor Zegras here. 6 foot, 168. High end production. Good speed. Cause separation. Very creative. I think he will fit well in Buffalo. So I will go with Trevor Zegras for Buffalo there.
Which leaves me with the Oilers. And, well, I think you kind of have to go best player available. I think the Oilers make an exception here. And while he's not the best player available, he will be this is the best spot for him, and that's Cole Caulfield. Putting him on the wing with Connor McDavid could be an absolute, just insane duo. And I think that's just too good of an opportunity to pass up for the Oilers.
Yeah, if I were making that pick, Sean, I would agree with you there. So Anaheim now picking at number 9. We didn't talk about it earlier, but today the Ducks announced they're buying out the contract of Corey Perry. The rebuild is officially on for the Ducks. I'll go with Vasily Podkolzin, right winger from Russia. I believe that, Russia. And just a little bit bigger than Peyton Krebs. And, he's a winger, and I think that Anaheim probably has quite a few question marks on the wings, so let's go with him.
Which means I'm with Vancouver here, and it's very interesting. You know what? I'm going to have to take I admire and grateful that Peyton Krebs came and interviewed. I think he's great. That's a great thing. But I'm going to have to take Alex Newhook here. It's a very tough decision. I think a BCHL kid, both of them are, BC kid, BCHL kid. He's going to have an opportunity to develop at Boston College. He's going to get better. It's a great program. He's going to be a well-rounded kid by the time he's ready to play in the NHL. So I will take Alex Newhook. And I hope that Sean and Tyler are not throwing eggs at me here.
That's a very good pick for the Canucks, and I think that's a very realistic one with his speed is something I think that the Canucks value highly. And then that gives me the Philadelphia Flyers, and at this point, I think they go with Peyton Krebs. I think I think he's an absolutely perfect fit for the Philadelphia Flyers. He's got that grit, that determination, and skill combination that I think that they will be very, very hard to pass up on.
So that leaves me with the number 12 selection. That belongs to the Minnesota Wild at this point. I'm leaning towards Matthew Boldy. Again, American. And he's projected to be a power left winger, a number 1 left winger. And I think with Minnesota, just generally at this point, I mean, I'm not sure what their biggest needs really are. They're a team that is pretty good, but it just hasn't been able to overcome the hump in the playoffs. They missed the playoffs this last year, I'm going to go with Boldy.
Which leaves me with Florida, and I am inclined. I will go here. I'm going to take, because I believe I'm getting Bobrovsky. I don't necessarily need to jump on the goaltending bandwagon. And I think that there is safety in having a guy. This might be, in my opinion, one of the safer places for this guy to develop. And he may be I may be taking him a little bit higher or lower, depending on people's eyes. But this is a guy that I think is has been a controversial pick, depending on where your perspective is. But I'm going to take Philip Broberg in Florida. I think that will be a really good place with a really good coach, and I think it's a good place for him to be. So I'm going to take Florida will take Philip Broberg.
And now we have Arizona. And they've surprised us a couple times in the last couple drafts. And I think they go with Arthur Kaliev. That's high. He's one of the best scorers in the draft. He just has a bit of a compete level issue, but at this stage, at 14, you're not going to get a better shot at getting a prolific scorer than Arthur Kaliev.
All right, Montreal holds the number 15 pick at this point, and just calculating who we have that's still on the board here. I believe that they would probably be inclined to grab a defenseman. I think that the Habs are pretty comfortable with what they got there in Kasperi Kotkaniemi. Shea Weber is not a spring chicken anymore, so I got to be thinking towards the future with their defense. Victor Soderstrom would be my pick there for the Habs.
Puts me at 16, which is the Colorado Avalanche again. And boy, I just took a defenseman with Bowen Byram. So I'll be inclined to take a forward here, and I will take Philip Tomasino from the OHL.
Okay, and then that now up is Vegas, and they will be. I think they've got a lot of good. They've got Brandstrom coming up on the blue line, and then they've got Cody Glass up front. Both, I think, will be pushing for roster spots next year and going forwards in the future. I believe that they're going to be looking at likely a defenseman here as well. I think this is a perfect spot for Thomas Harley. He's one of the youngest defensemen in this draft and has a potential that I think is higher than a lot of people believe.
Just catching up here on the selections here. Give me 1 second there, guys. Sean, can I have your pick again there, please?
Thomas Harley.
Okay, and Dallas's pick at number 18, I'm going to, again, pick a defenseman here. I'm going to go with Moritz Seider. He's a German defenseman. Really strong with territorial play. I think Dallas would, under Jim Montgomery, their structure is a big thing for them. They've always been kind of a defensive team, so I like that fit there for the Stars.
All right, which leads me to pick number 19, which is the Ottawa Senators. And this is a really fascinating little place to be in. But I'm going to go here with Cam York. And I know that I have a lot of defensemen, but I'm the Ottawa Senators, and I need to get the best player available. And I think that that's Cam York. Calm, good edge work, according to Cam Robinson. All-around player, good fit. So I'll take Cam York.
Okay, and after trading away this pick and then reacquiring it, the Winnipeg Jets will take Ryan Suzuki from Barrie. He's a good strong forward who can step in maybe in a couple years. He's a 6 foot, 180 and put up 25 goals in his and 75 points. So I think that's a good pick for Winnipeg.
Pittsburgh Penguins currently hold the 21st selection in the draft, and I think they're inclined to go with a forward at that point. Raphael Lavoie out of Halifax from the QMJHL. The question is, is how is he going to fit on a team with Sidney Crosby? Well, if you anticipate the play very well, that certainly helps, and that's one of the things that Craig Button has talked about in his analysis of this player. So we'll go with Raphael Lavoie.
Which leads me to the Kings, and I'm going to take Victor Soderstrom here. Soderstrom wasn't taken, was he?
He was, yeah.
Okay, well then I am not going to take Victor Soderstrom. I'm going to take Spencer Knight here. I know I have Jonathan Quick, but this is this. It's at this point there's a lot of options, but I can't let this guy pass too much further than this. I'm willing to take the risk here if I'm the LA Kings. He learns with one of the best who ever played the game, and Jonathan Quick. There's still some good pieces there. He doesn't need to be ready now. He'll have time to develop. The Kings will take Spencer Knight.
Yeah, I think some good succession planning there is required for the time that Jonathan Quick is no longer with the Kings.
Yeah, and that up now is the New York Islanders, and they will be Lou Lamoriello. I think Ville Heinola out of Finland is a good pick here. He's part of that group of defensemen that could go depending on who likes who more. Could go up as high as 15, where we have Soderstrom being taken, but Ville Heinola to the Islanders makes sense to me.
All right, Nashville holds the number 24 pick, and again, I think that they're probably feeling a need for a forward here. I'll go with Samuel Poulin out of the QMJHL, Sherbrooke, more specifically, and could project as a middle power 6 forward. Does play both the center and the wing, so obviously that'd be of value to Nashville, I think.
Which leads me to Washington, and I am going to look here at Connor McMichael, center left winger out of the OHL, 5'11", 172 pounds. He's one of those guys I think is projected to go anywhere from 19 to 25. To me, I think it's a good fit for their Connor McMichael for the Washington Capitals.
And now for the Calgary Flames. At this point, he's a little bit higher up on my list, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's high up on the Flames list. From the Sioux City in the USHL, undersized forward Bobby Brink.
Yeah, he's
been. How do you feel about that one?
Well, he's been moving up. He's been moving up the board. So, I think at 26, it's got some offense. The only thing I'm a little concerned about his size, but I think there'll be a little bit of a project there, but there's a few options there, and I don't. To me, Brink, Hoglander, or Rhett Leeson, I don't think you could go wrong with any of those three. So it's not wrong. I don't hate it.
All right, 27th pick belongs to the Tampa Bay Lightning, and we should just say, like, a lot of people probably didn't expect Tampa Bay to be picking this high in the draft. Maybe it would have been a little bit lower had they gotten to to at least the third round of the playoffs. I think they're probably inclined to take a defenseman, and Matthew Robertson out of the Western Hockey League, the Edmonton Oil Kings specifically, and projected to be a top 3 territorial defenseman. Again, it's Tampa Bay's got a really strong team, but looking down the road, I think they're probably feeling a little more secure with what they have at forward than on defense.
Which leads me to the Carolina Hurricanes, and I am inclined to pick. You know what? I'm going to pick Pavel and I'm mispronouncing his last name, Dorofeyev from the NHL. Bit taller, but lighter than a Nicholas Robertson or Bobby Brink, and 6 feet, 163 pounds. But shoots first. I feel like he seems like a guy that personality fits very well in Carolina. So I think he would be a good fit. So Pavel Dorofeyev for Carolina.
And then with their second pick in the first round, the Anaheim Ducks are going to go back to Sweden for a defenseman and pick Tobias Bjornfot. They had some good luck with Hampus Lindholm, and Tobias Bjornfot I think is a good fit for them as well.
Okay, Boston has the 30th pick, Stanley Cup runners-up.
And they're going to get booed mercilessly.
Yes. Yes. Gloria.
Gloria. I'm going to go with Jamison Rees from Sarnia of the OHL. Center, 5'10". I think the Bruins, I think they like the young defense that they have. Need to start looking ahead to the future without Patrice Bergeron. So let's go with Jamison Rees.
All right, which leads me with Buffalo, and I am going to take here. I'm going to go with Niles Hoglander from the SHL. 5'9", 185, but Cam Robinson says plays bigger than his size, looks capable, quick hands. I think is a good fit for Buffalo. So Niles Hoglander. And that's the first round. That did not take that long.
No, I thought this might have gone on a little bit slower, but we don't do the same level of segments and breaking it down that a TV broadcast.
No.
Interviews and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting to see how it played out. I had Brett Leeson pegged for the Flames, but when Bobby Brink was still there, I thought that just with the pure skill that he has and the upside that he has, I couldn't. If he's there for the Flames, I wouldn't be surprised if they pick him.
Yeah, there seems to be, like, in that fifth tier, there seems to be a good chunk of. It feels like you can't go wrong with any one of them. The only thing that concerns me with a lot of that in that tier is the size, but but that's Johnny Gaudreau has been fairly successful, so. Yeah, I mean, it's just one pick in the round, but I don't think you can go wrong. And I think Leeson, I really like Leeson, but I guess that's an interesting question if he is a first rounder or not. I think that there's some people still unsure about him, and he didn't. I mean, the Memorial Cup, he kind of struggled there, so I think that may drop his stock a little bit, but who knows?
Yeah, and then with the Oilers, there's a good chance they go with Broberg as well. I just think it's the combination of McDavid and Caulfield would be just dynamite, and I think if you have that opportunity, it's hard to pass up.
that one's one of the ones that really jumps out as making so much sense to me as well.
Yeah, there would certainly be an excitement there, and he's proven he can score in all levels. So I don't think that's necessarily going to be a problem. Like, I was wondering, I was kind of comparing him in my mind to a guy like Cam Yamamoto, if he's going to be up and down all the time. But I feel like this guy has a bit more consistency in his game than Yamamoto does. And I feel like this guy would be a perfect fit for Connor McDavid for sure. Like, if you had a line of McDavid, Caulfield, and Draisaitl, that would be a line that could dominate the NHL for a long time.
Yeah. And just looking at the board too, if that top 9 plays out and the 10th pick rolls around and the Canucks have their choice of Newhook, Krebs, Boldy, and Broberg is still on the board, there would be a lot of very excited and very, very nervous Canucks fans because I know a lot of people are super high on getting Newhook, Krebs, or even Boldy, and are very worried that the Canucks would pass on them to take Broberg because from all the talk is that the high end realistic ceiling of Broberg is more of a second pair defenseman, while those 4 forwards have first line potential. So if it comes down to that, and that's the board and who's available, oof.
Yeah, I guess when I looked at it, I mean, to me it was between Newhook and Krebs. I feel like Newhook and Krebs is just a little bit of a higher level than what Boldy and Broberg is. Boldy's good size, but I feel like Alex Newhook just brings a lot to the table, a lot of dynamic to the table that I think you can put him on a second line. You can put him anywhere. There's a versatility to him, and I think going to Boston College, it will allow him to develop into a guy that will be a complete player and a really good whole person that you're going to get. He's going to be ready for the NHL, where I'm not sure you're going to get that from a Philip Broberg. But I think Boldy would be fine. But yeah, at the end of the day, the way that I see it, I think long term the best pick there for the Canucks is Alex Newhook.
I guess something that's a little bit interesting to me is the Western Hockey League looks like they could be well represented in the top part of this draft as well. And it's been a little while. Only 2 first-rounders in total in last year's draft came out of the WHL, and this year we could see quite a few even taken in the top 10. So that'll be interesting to see as well.
Yeah. Okay, so where did Cousins ended up? Where
on our draft we had him. On ours we had him at 5th.
Yeah, so and Zegras I had at 9. No, wait, I didn't pick 9th. I picked 7th. I had 7th. I had him in Detroit, right?
Yeah.
Zegras went to
Buffalo, yeah. Yeah, and that's great for I know it's typical too, but I mean, I think it's great for the WHL because they haven't had a lot of good notoriety lately. They haven't won a Memorial Cup game in a long time. It's been a couple of years, and I know it's cyclical, but my personal opinion, and even when I was working in Kamloops, when I was talking to the play-by-play guy there, John Keane, and he talked about, I think it's the way that the WHL schedule and the travel schedule, traveling out east, I think makes it really tough for them to have a lot of success in the Memorial Cup. I think the way that that's structured, I think, is not advantageous to the WHL. So I'm really glad. I think this will be a good draft for them. I think it'll get some spotlight on them. And I suspect that whatever WHL team is represented in this Memorial Cup, I think will do much better. And I will boldly predict they will win a game, at least. I'm not predicting that they're going to win a Memorial Cup because I have no idea, but I think they'll do better this year for sure. So,
it is being hosted in Kelowna.
Yeah. Poor PA had the overtime game against the Giants on the Monday and then had to travel to Halifax on the Friday to play a team that they've never played before in a time zone that they're not used to. I just felt like that's such a disadvantage to them. But that's the rules.
You're going to get that from the QM JHL this year with Kelowna hosting the Memorial Cup this year. And what's going to be interesting is in early second, based off of our board, in the early second, Kelowna is going to get their three big prospects get picked. And I would be surprised if one of those three, or even two of those three, Lassie Thompson, Caden Korzak, and Nolan Foote get picked in the first round too come Friday. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of WHL representation in the first round, on Friday.
Yeah, it'll be early Saturday too, which I think that it'll be good. And it's good for the WHL, I think.
Mm-hmm. They always seem to get dwarfed by the OHL in particular, and a little bit with the Q as well, just in terms of the, just the attention on their players going through their playoffs.
Yeah. So that is that. Just for the record here, Sportsnet's 10th pick for Vancouver in their mock draft is Peyton Krebs. And TSN mock drafted for their final time, Vasily Podkozin would be the 10th pick for the Vancouver Canucks. 20 for those interested for the Flames. I'll do the Oilers in a second too. But for the Flames, Brett Leeson was the TSN pick, and just scrolling down here, the 26th pick is according to Sportsnet. They had Alex Newhook really low in that one, by the way. They had him going to the Ottawa Senators at 19. But according to Sportsnet, the Flames picked Connor McMichael, and then the Oilers, for those there, just going up here. I know this is compelling podcasting, but they had Philip Broberg going to the Oilers at 8. Sportsnet did, and Broberg was at 14 with Arizona, by the way, in the TSN. But in the TSN mock draft, they had Matthew Boldy going at number 8. So,
wow,
that's
that just shows how, like I said before we started this, how unpredictable that 3, 4, 5, all the way to 12, 13, 14 could be. Arthur Kaliev is someone who could pop in there earlier on. You could see someone get real high on one of the other defensemen, even if it is Broberg. Detroit was rumored to be very high on Quinn Hughes or on a defenseman last year, but when Zadina fell into their lap, they had to pick him. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're high on a Broberg or a Seider or a Soderstrom this year too.
Yeah, it's going to be quite fascinating. And Tyler and I are going to be there on Friday and Saturday. Yeah, and then we will do a recap on Sunday. Tomorrow, Heidi and I are going to recap the NHL awards. Going to be fascinated to hear Heidi's social media's perspective on this. But Elias Pettersson, of course, did win the Calder and did pay a tribute to Jason Botchford, which I thought was quite classy on his part. Really well done. The kid just keeps growing up. He's and And then I'm going to the Botsford Tribute on the Thursday night at the Commodore. I'll do a little bit of a recap on that on Friday. Then Sunday, we're going to recap the draft, what happened there, what did Sean see on TV, who was running around where, who did Benny talk to, all that sort of stuff. So that'll be quite fascinating. Yeah. Anything else that I missed there? I don't think so.
No, sounds like you're going to be a very busy Kevin for the next little bit.
Yeah.
It'll be,
yeah, and then once you caught up and got your breath from all of that, then free agency will be looming upon us.
Yes, we will have to. Yes, that's coming up as well. Yes, that's going to be quite fascinating. And I live near the airport, so I can just hang out at the airport and tell you who's been in and out.
That would be fantastic, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Hey,
see who's on a layover, like Carlson.
Yeah, exactly. Dang. The other thing that is, before we go quickly and before we end this, it is expected that during the draft, the Canucks are going to name the next person in the Ring of Honor. Do you have a prediction of who that will be?
I'm thinking it's not going to be someone that recent. That's my feeling about it. So that makes me wonder then who would be picked. I don't know, Kevin. That's a tough one.
Sean?
I'd say Alex Burrows or Gino Ojic. If you go early, like recent, you go Burrows. If not, maybe you go fan favorite in Gino Ojic.
Yeah, that's kind of my thinking as far as Burrows. Like, if they're inclined to put someone on their recent, he would be the more obvious one. But I just kind of feel like they're going to go back a little bit further. Ojic wouldn't. That'd be a popular choice for the fans, certainly.
Yeah, I think my pick was either Burrows, and I could see Ojic, and I'm trying to think if there's anyone that has been missed, and I can't, just off the top of my head, can't think of any. I wonder if they announce the plans for the Sedins this weekend too. That retirement, what they're going to do, because they are doing that this year, are they not?
I believe that was the plan.
Yeah, I think there will be a jersey retirement for the Sedins at some point this upcoming season.
Yeah,
they would have done it last year, but they wanted to. I think they already announced that they were going to do it in conjunction with the 50th anniversary of the club.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Well, anything else that we need to talk about, or?
No, I think that's good for now, Kevin. I'm looking forward to being in Vancouver this weekend and hanging out with you and checking out the draft. It should be a lot of fun.
It should be a lot of fun. Yes, so follow Tyler at
T Noble on Twitter, TNOBLE.
And follow Sean.
Beardy Canuck 03 on Twitter.
All right, and follow me at KEVOLE. We will talk to you all soon. Bye for now.